everyone, welcome back to Somebody on Respect and to AEW Worlds End 2025 out of 10, the final pay-per-view of the year. So the company's looking to go out with a bang. Of course, we've got the final of the Continental Classic as well as a four-way for the world title, and yeah, lots of other bouts as well. We're going to kick things off with the Worlds End 0 hour. We're going to go through all the matches quickly, starting off with the Sisters of Sin versus High and Maya World. Yeah, they signed their contracts after this match, the Worlds. So yeah, it made the outcome a little more obvious, the fact they weren't signed, but Hart and Blue put on a solid match with them to get the action started on the pre-show. Blue scored the win for the team. Yeah, pretty decent. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. GYV's Gibson then took on Kingston in the next match, but James Drake was by his side. As usual, the Man King marched right to the ring and started swinging. If you know these two men, it'd be a hard-hitting fight. They didn't have a ton of time, but they made the most of every minute. Kingston won with a DDT, but he was attacked by both members of GYV before Ortiz made a surprise return to make a save. Great to see him back, and yeah, looking forward to seeing him with Kingston. Mascara Dorado and Bandido versus Davis and Rocky Romero. It was a fun match with some really creative spots from both teams. Davis and Romero did a good job not letting themselves be overshadowed by the Luchadors, but the Maskmen ended up with a victory. And finally, Josh Alexander and Demand versus Jet Speed and Jurassic Express. The heels attacked Jurassic Express during the entrance to get an Empire advantage. They took Luchasaurus to the back, and Perry spent a long time recovering while Jet Speed fought for all men by itself. A decent bout, given the time constraints and the number of people. Once Perry and Luchasaurus recovered, they were able to get the win for their team. On the whole, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I thought there was no match that really stood out, but so a few interesting surprises, and on the whole, nothing really bad as well. I think just pretty good, solid stuff to get us warmed up. I'll give it 6 out of 10. We then got Takeshita versus Okada in one of the most anticipated bouts to kick off the show. The winner, of course, going on to the final later. They took some time to size each other up before Okada offered a handshake. Big Takeshita slapped his hand away, which got a pop from the crowd. They didn't rush into anything and spent a few minutes just going for holds and counters. Once they started hitting strikes, both men started getting more aggressive. The pace didn't increase too much. There was a lot of taunting, grandstanding from both. If you followed Okada's career, you know how a lot of bigger matches play out. They start slow, build up over the time. It can make half of the contest feel slow, but not necessarily badly. They played into the tension these two have had for the past few months really well, and it feels like it's more than just about a tournament. There's personal pride on the line. An outstanding match for both. They left room to grow in future encounters, but this will likely be considered one of the best matches of the C2. Unfortunately, the ending fell apart a bit. Okada used a screwdriver to get the win, but yeah, the ref should have seen it. A bit of a shame, but I feel on the whole a great match. Slightly surprised by the outcome, but yeah, made sense later. Before we moved on to the other semi-final, Moxley taking on Fletcher. This was a match of youthful experience, but other than that, it felt like these two were even. Both men played some mind games in the early minutes of the match. It looked like Fletcher was getting under Mox's skin until the Death Riders followed him out of the ring and started beating on him. Fletcher trapped Mox's leg between the ring and seal sets, causing damage, so he was able to take control for a while as he continued focusing on the injured leg. One of the best things about Fletcher is his versatility. He feels right at home in the ring with high flyers, powerhouses and brawlers. He adapted well to Mox's style to put them on a great show. They did a fantastic job making you think that either guy could win at any moment. After both men came close several times, Fletcher looked for the screwdriver that Okada had used earlier, but he couldn't find it. Fletcher kicked out of Moxley's finishers, but he wasn't able to get the rear naked choke, and Mox got the win to advance to the final. Another really good match, and yes, set up an excellent final, 8 out of 10. As we then moved on to the FTR, the Bang 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 match in a street fight. As soon as the match began, the fight spilled out. Harwood tried to use a chair to maim Robinson before they began fighting in the crowd. Meanwhile, Wheeler and Gunn fought up to the ramp to the stage. The first two matches on the card were both tough contests, but this match took things to another level thanks to the stipulation. Thankfully, it didn't come over reliant on foreign objects, and we got a lot of wrestling. An entertaining bit of mayhem highlights the willingness of all four to put their body on the line. Stokely saved FTR, allowing them to come back and get the win with a few power drivers. I thought, yeah, like I say, meshed it well, was the right result too. So, yeah, 7 out of 10. As we then moved on to the Bays of Wrath versus Mercedes and Athena for the women's titles, the Chants took control early and maintained the upper hand for quite some time, but the challengers managed to work together to make a comeback after a few minutes. The first two matches on the card were incredible, and the third was pure chaos, so this bout had a disadvantage of following that. All four did a good job, but it would have stood out more maybe on a TV. The second half of this match included some great spots that helped make it more exciting. Athena and Monet had a few miscommunications that led to the Chance getting a pin, which makes sense. I think, and Willow pinning Mercedes as well, obviously going to set up a very interesting feud for the TBS title too. So yeah, good stuff. As we then moved on to Darby Allin and Gabe Kidd, both coming off recent losses, so both men were looking to get a win here. Allen exploded out of the corner with a running dropkick as soon as Kidd got to the ring. It took Kidd a couple of minutes, but once he regained his footing, he threw Allen into the timekeeper's area and hit a sting shot into the steel sets and was set up with a metal plate that popped off when Allen hit it. Allen began bleeding from his head after that spot, so Kidd pounced and tried to make it worse. A few moments later, Kidd was bleeding just as much. For a match with no step-all situations, they made this a violent affair that utilised plenty of things to inflict more damage. While this was very enjoyable if you like violence, they may have relied too much on it. That being said, Allen using a classic wrestling counter to win, to get the 3 count. So yeah, maybe they got the balance just right. But who knows? That's what you kind of expect with these two, isn't it? 6 out of 10. Before we got Shafir, Yuta, Garcia and Claudio taking on Storm, Briscoe, Cassidy and Roderick Strong in a tornado match. This means no tags were needed, so everyone was legal and could get the win at any time. Storm and Shafir were the first ones to go after each other, with everyone else beginning the ball just after. As the name suggested, this match included mayhem. There wasn't much of a logical flow to the action at times, but it added to the unpredictable nature. Shafir's looked better in recent weeks, and this match helped her increase her role. Briscoe ended up scoring a win for his team to entertain bring to an end an entertaining fight, and Widow and Hart joined the winners to celebrate. So yeah, I thought it was a good match, a bit of fun in the card. So yeah, 6 out of 10. As we then moved on to Statlander against Hayter, they started with a simple lockup sequence as both of them tried to overpower each other. Stat ended up getting the first advantage when she sent Hayter out the ring. The problem with following a match like that one is it comes when the crowd could be a bit worn out. Hayter and Stat did well, but they were put in what was probably the hardest spot on the card. Once they started picking up the pace, the fans woke up and reacted. This was a good match between two of the best in AEW. It had some hiccups along the way. They didn't have any major botches, but they had a few awkward moments that stalled their momentum. On any other show, this would have been a standout match. Unfortunately, that ended up on a pay-per-view with several bouts almost impossible to follow. Both women used each other's finishing moves before Stat got the win. So yeah, an entertaining match. Maybe the placement didn't really suit it, but I think probably the right result. 6 out of 10. As we then moved on to the final of the Continental Classic, Moxley and Okada, both men delivered backstage promos to hype it up. The Rainmaker extended his hand, Mox fixed him off. It didn't phase the champ though. Once Okada had control, he began focusing on the leg that Fletcher had injured on Mox earlier in that night. He was confident, began toying with the former champ, which didn't sit well with John. For a long time, the Rainmaker had the upper hand. He knew he had the advantage and didn't seem overconfident. He was taking his time and being methodical in other fights. While this match told a good story, it couldn't quite live up to the 2 matches earlier in the night. Mox was obviously selling injuries from earlier, but it made it feel unique. And after a hard-fought match, Mox was able to do it and become the new champ. Yeah, didn't see that result coming, but I think it would make the whole Death Rider story more interesting. Obviously, you got Okada. Where does he go now? But yeah, surprise result. But I think it could definitely create an intriguing narrative. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It was then time for the final match of the night. Joe, MJF, Swerve and Hangman for the title. All 4 stood in the ring after the bell before breaking off into pairs so they could fight. Hangman got the better of the initial exchange, but one huge chop from Joe slowed him down. The first several minutes were a series of exchanges with all 4 men taking turns fighting each other, but Swerve and Hangman had minimal contact until later in the fight. All 4 men worked hard to make this a good main event, so nobody really stood out above the others. MJF and Swerve had the most entertaining moments together though. Since there was no DQs in a match like this, there was nobody to stop Hook, Hobbs and Shibata for interfering. After they were cleared out by some rest, MJF ended up winning by pinning Joe with his Heat Seeker power driver. A good match, but some ways and it will be controversial. Yeah, surprised by the outcome, but I think MJF with a triple B again, I'm not against it. So yeah, 7 out of 10 from me. And overall, Worlds End gets a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's the best pay-per-view of the year, but it definitely had a few incredible matches on there. Mox winning the Continental Classic is interesting. And then obviously Willow, Cameron, FTR, Stat retaining their belts. New world champion as well. I thought the C2 did well. So yeah, on the whole,
guys, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on our socials. Link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.